Hello everyone. So this is going to be a different episode because I'm not doing any cooking. I thought that I would just kind of show you what I'm doing for my end of year garden. Basically putting it to bed and just kind of talking about what I might do next year and showing you what I'm fixing to do. So I'm in my absolute rattiest clothes, so I don't care about getting dirty and getting in the dirt. And I've already done a few things, so let me go ahead and show you that, and then we'll get on to our other tasks. So I've already harvested a few things that were left over. Remember, I said in a couple episodes before that my garden really didn't do too well this year, and this was mainly due to extreme heat, drought, and then torrential rain and high humidity, especially at night. And that is very brutal for some of these plants. So I was a little surprised at what actually grew well, like these peppers. You see they're actually still going strong. So these I will leave up and see if we can't get a few more, because I really think we will. They look strong and healthy yet, so I'm going to just leave them and let them do what they want to do. But you'll notice over here, my tomatoes are gone. I've got tomatoes gone from here too. I've already taken them out of this and I've emptied the dirt into the raised beds. So, that was the last of the summer tomatoes, really. I've harvested a few straw flowers, which I will show you in a minute. I've got them kind of drying on my front porch, make sure that there's no bugs in them. And if there are any bugs, then hopefully they'll just wander off. But this tomato plant is going to come up. I will be composting all of these to add to the soil next year. So they're not going to go completely to waste. They're going to nourish the garden for next year. But look at what did do really well. Look at that beautiful basil. I've come through and just kind of picked some of the flowers off the tops. If you don't want them to go to seed and you want them to keep producing these big, beautiful leaves to eat, then always make sure and come through and pick those little flowers out. Because once they go to flower, they'll actually stop producing leaves because they're going to put all their energy into seed making. But this right here was a surprise to me, and how big and beautiful they got. So guess what's coming for next year? This garden, instead of a vegetable garden, may actually turn into a herb garden. Although I do have this one little itsy bitsy teeny weeny tomato plant that popped up with the most adorable and tiny little jewel of tomatoes that I've ever seen. So this plant, I've decided to let it go ahead and stay since it looks really healthy, and we'll see how long it's going to last and how many of these it can produce. Now I've already cleaned up my beans. I pulled them up from the roots down here. I'll let these dry since they're so entwined, and that way I can just come through and just pull them out when they're more brittle. But I got the pile right here. These will be composted so I can add those back to the soil. Now this is a tomato plant that I'm a little bit up in the air about. You can see that he doesn't look too healthy. We've had a lot of really bad hot days, and with that humidity, you can water, but sometimes it just isn't enough and it stresses the plant out too much. So I'm not really sure if I'm going to go ahead and keep him. You can see he hasn't produced very healthy fruit, so he's very stressed out. Except this one over here is healthy. So I may actually leave him alone for just a little bit, just see how it goes and see if he can kind of come back a little bit, since the temperatures are going to be a little bit cooler from here on out. I also have these tomatoes left, which are still producing somewhat healthy looking flowers. And we've got some nice fruit over here that looks nice and healthy on the bottom. So those look pretty good. I think what I might do is weed eat over here, leaving the basil, of course, and I'm going to move these pots over there. That way we can kind of make room, because I have an idea for these raised beds. So I've got some seeds. I've got some lettuces that I'd like to try. This one I got for free, so I've never grown this. I don't know anything about it, but I thought it might be kind of fun to try it. I've also got some radishes and mustard greens, some more lettuce, and I think what I'd like to do is dedicate these 3 beds to these and see what we can come up with. So that's our plan. Let's go ahead and weed eat a little bit, and then we'll move those tomatoes over, and we should be good to go for that end of the garden at least. That looks somewhat better. I put them up against the fence here so they can have a little bit of support. I'm going to clip this one. He looks like he might need a little bit more support, so we will leave him there. Sometimes when you have a summer like this that just does nothing but grow weeds, it's so much easier to go ahead and weed eat just to get the worst of it down so you can walk through here. And then at the end of the season, we'll actually go ahead and till this again, and I'm going to test out what's called a cover crop, which I'll show you that later in the season when I'm ready to sow that. You'll notice I'm taking this down, which was the shade cloth that was over the loofah and the cucumber. I don't think they'll need it anymore, as we're kind of cooling off, and hopefully we'll stay cooled off. This loofah plant isn't showing a whole lot of activity yet, but that's because they're one of the slowest growing gourds ever. So it's going to take a long time yet to start making those little loofahs. If it does, hopefully the conditions were right. But I just want you to see how big this thing can get. So we're starting at the bottom, we're going up. You can see he did branch off over here, so we've got like a little bit of a tendril going this way, but the biggest one is up, over, up the clothesline, across the clothesline, and then across the fence back here. Look how big he is. He's actually going all the way over here and is still growing. So he's gonna tendril his way, I'm thinking, all the way across this back fence before it's even done. Now I still have some chamomile in this pot here in the corner, but it seems to be doing pretty good. I think it's happy over here, so I'm just gonna leave this pot here for now. The dill, you can see, has gone to seed, which is what I was hoping it would do, because eventually I'm hoping this corner right here is just going to be nothing but a dill factory. So it will keep coming up and get thicker and thicker in this area. You can see I've already got some little babies that fell and seeded themselves, which they probably won't last, you know, they won't get as big as this one, obviously, because they got such a late start in the growing season. But that's kind of how Tennessee is. You know, plants get a little bit confused when this warm weather just keeps sticking around, and then all of a sudden we'll get a frost. So not sure how big these are going to get, but I'll leave them just to do what they're going to do. And before we quit this pepper bed, let's look and see. I think that one's ready. Let's go ahead and harvest him. And I think the rest of them I might leave on there a little bit longer because they don't seem quite as red. Although I do you see that little red right there? I think that one's ready. Oh yeah, that one's beautiful. Now we'll go ahead and pull these weeds and get this bed prepared for new seed. That looks much better. And remember, we're not too worried that, there's still a covering of grass. We'll let this dry out and then till it in so that it can break down in the soil. And hopefully by spring, it will be just a little bit richer. Now we've got pretty much everything done that we need to do except for sowing the seeds. So let's go ahead and pick out which beds we want for each one, and then we will go ahead and scatter them. Okay, now the greens, I'm going to go ahead and put that all in a bed by itself. These are the ones that can be mixed in and intermingled. So let's go ahead, let's see, that's a lettuce. I've got that. I think we should just go ahead and leave it 3, 3, and 1. And I'm kind of thinking, I'm pretty sure this bed is the one that gets the most sun. So maybe let's put the greens there, and then we'll put the lettuces in these two. Hopefully they won't get as harsh of sun on them. All right, we've got one more bed. This is the one I'm the most excited for, kitchen sink mix. I have no idea what's going to come up with it, but it looks cool. We will go ahead and put some little radishes in here. Sometimes those are good because if you get bugs in your lettuce, they'll actually go after the radish first. Since this is the cheaper seed, it's good to go ahead and sacrifice these instead of sacrificing your greens. And then of course we have this, which we have no idea what it's going to do, but let's go ahead and find out if this will grow in our climate. seed beds planted with lettuce and greens. We used up 4 bags of seeds, so that's great. And we have 3 left we'll put in the refrigerator for next spring. Now all we have to do is clean up our mess out here, and we're pretty much done in the garden. You can see how nice and cleaned it got. And there's something very satisfying about putting your garden to bed, so to speak. After the extreme heat and activity of the summer, it seems like it's just non-stop, and it's so hectic sometimes that you just can't seem to get ahead of it. And then all of a sudden, it's like the land just starts telling you that it's tired and it really just wants to go to sleep for a while. And as gardeners, that's something that you really have to pay attention to and listen to, because it will tell you when it's done. Remember how beautiful and stately this purple coneflower was during the summer, and now it knows it's time to just go dormant and provide food in these seeds for the birds over the fall and winter. The stalks will also begin to dry and hollow out and actually provide a little home for bees to lay their eggs so that they hatch and can pollinate your flowers for the next spring. And so while it can be sad to see everything kind of dying down and the land wanting to sleep, it can also be a really good thing to let you rest and give you enough time to plan what you want to do for when the land decides to wake up. And that's what I'll be doing over the fall and winter, because this summer has taught me a lesson that, the climate is changing and Tennessee is changing right along with it, and sometimes you just have to adapt to what the weather throws you. We had quite a surprising summer this year, and so next year my garden's going to look completely different, but while it sleeps, I'll be able to have enough time to plan exactly what I want that to look like. And now I will clean up my mess, and then I will meet you in the greenhouse. And I'm back, and the greenhouse actually has some activity still going on, so let me go ahead and show you what's up with that. My Mexican petunia really took off and is gorgeous. He will actually overwinter here in the greenhouse along with its sister plant, which you can see I've got a beautiful flower all the way at the very top there, if you can see that purple kind of waving in the wind. But this will come in the greenhouse and overwinter in there. I also took a cutting of our heirloom rose bush because it's actually getting towards the end of its life and getting really choked up with poison ivy, thanks to probably some birds, dropping little seeds down in there. And so I took this cutting to try to preserve it before we have to take out the parent plant. And look, it finally sprouted some actual leaves. I'm so excited. You can see I thought it wasn't really gonna do much. I thought it might be dead, but here we go, we've got some new life. So that's awesome. I will leave him there because obviously it really likes it. And these little babies might look familiar to you. These are little tiny mother of thousands. They all fell from this plant here. You can see there's many, many more on the edge. I've been catching them and starting them in this tray, and you can see I've got some that I need to separate. I've been just giving them away to people like in the Master Gardener program and stuff that might want one. So I've got an abundance. Giving away a few is only gonna help me out at this point. We also have this turmeric, which if you watched from the beginning when I first got this plant, it was only down here with just a couple of leaves, and look at it now. It is absolutely gorgeous. Can't wait to start seeing that turmeric root start pushing up from the ground. I recently received through the Master Gardening program this absolute treasure. This is an oak tree sapling. But this sapling actually comes from one of our historic oak trees that's actually registered as a historic tree that is hundreds of years old. The parent tree actually stands in what was a African American cemetery that saw slavery and Civil War, Reformation, and just tons and tons of American history. And I think that is so cool. The parent tree still stands proud and is still making little babies, and I got one, so I cannot wait. I'm going to let him get a little bit bigger before I plant it, and then we will see. We really need to do some research to see where would be the best place because I really want to keep this baby. I went ahead and picked these yesterday, and look how gorgeous they are. These are mostly white with just a little hint of pink. And if you can hear that, that is why they're called straw flowers, because they really have an absolute straw texture to them. I also picked these beautiful golden yellow ones, and they're so gorgeous, and I had such a fun time growing them that I've decided to make a whole corner of my garden next year nothing but straw flowers. So we will see how that goes. And I hope you enjoyed that little bit of a different video. I know there was no cooking in it, but I kind of wanted to talk about, and muse about putting my garden to bed and just kind of what that means and what that looks like, and maybe putting a little bit of inspiration for you to start planning your garden over the fall and winter and getting ready for when that land wakes up, because it will come sooner than you expect it to. So I'm going to go ahead and go inside, wash up, and call it a day as far as the garden is concerned. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.
And if you like historical cooking and unusual cookbooks, here's 2 more videos you might enjoy. And make sure to like and subscribe for more foodie adventures.